Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, how does that look? Can everyone see that document?
Yes.
Okay. Miranda, can I just start going through this, or do we need to do introductions or anything else?
No, I think unless there's anyone here, I think we all know each other if you wanted to just get started.
Okay. Yeah, what I'd like to do is go through the edits that I made to this document, and they incorporate the comments from the Sustainability Advisory Board, as well as my recommendations on Kevin Mueller's comments, some updates, and some corrections from Billy. So I'd like to get this, to have us look at this and approve or not the changes so we can use it as a basis for adding, incorporating comments from the public. So the very first change up here is in the vision statement. You know, we had it as mitigate adverse effects of climate change. So we didn't incorporate anything about changing the course of climate change. So I picked up this wording from United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we take action to combat change and its impacts. So does anyone have any objections to that?
No.
Okay, alrighty.
Karen,
Here that goes.
can you take that language from the UN, or do you need to cite it from them?
Ooh, I don't know. I can make a note on that and look into it. And then I could.
We share in the UN's mission to blah, 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 blah.
We share in the UN's mission to, okay. I'm just going to make a note on that.
It's also super generic, so it might not be an issue. You know?
Yeah, I would say make a note, but like I wouldn't necessarily put the UN in there in case someone's got an agenda with the UN, unless we feel like we really need to. I think it seems super generic and action oriented.
Okay, I'll investigate that and make a recommendation on our next go round. Okay, under climate goal, the first objective, we had the state goal, and I changed that to the more aggressive national goal that was announced by Biden on Earth Day. Okay.
I like it. I like it.
Okay. The next one is a suggestion from the Sustainability Advisory Board to say that we partner with other communities on climate policies and initiatives. And we do that through a lobbying group. I forget the acronym, but it's further down. So I'm going to go ahead and check that.
4CA.
Thank you, Erica. Okay.
Colorado Communities for Climate Action.
Karen, this is Zach Swank with Boulder County and the Office of Sustainability.
Yes.
Miranda invited me today. I'm sorry I missed the deadline to get comments in, but I did have one here, and feel free to take it or leave it. But under the climate goals section, I thought maybe having the recognition of the need to encourage commercial and residential participation in achieving the town's climate goal might be a good thing to call out. I think it's something that often gets missed in these types of plans, but obviously, you know, getting the commercial sector, you know, businesses to set greenhouse gas reduction goals is critical to supporting, you know, your overall goal there.
Oh, okay. Yes, agreed. That sounds good. So I will add that. And it will be the objective, encourage commercial and residential participation in the town's greenhouse gas reduction goals.
Sounds great.
Okay. The next one is about reducing the use of toxic synthetic herbicides and pesticides. We had a little bit of a discussion. I had a little email exchange with Jill about saying that we'll eliminate toxic synthetic herbicides and pesticides on town properties and then encourage citizens to do the same. So I'm wondering from town if that would be a reasonable objective for town properties.
I believe it is. There's been quite an effort to use, you know, the, oh, what's it called? Like it's weed spraying that
Mhm.
they're doing using water and steam. It's basically steaming.
Mhm.
And that's been really well received. Is that the question you're asking? Like our,
So we have an integrated weed management plan that is a
right?
document, and it allows the use of toxic chemicals on noxious weeds.
Right,
So-
and we're reducing the town's use of that. And
Mhm.
I really wish Chris Pelletier was on here because I
That's accurate, Karen. What you're saying is accurate, is that the focus is on the steaming. Because even with
Right.
that funding, the DDA was going to give funding to Public Works for that, and Public Works was able to find it in their own budget. And so I do
Yeah.
think it's appropriate to make that change.
Absolutely. And while we haven't officially changed the plan,
Mhm.
our actual operations and the way we are addressing weeds has changed significantly.
Yeah, I've lived here for 3.5 years, and I recall in the last couple years there being a notice about toxic weed killer being sprayed along the highway by the town. And I did send some email to SAB and to, I think to town staff too, about it. So I
Yeah,
guess I'll.
I
Mhm,
wouldn't say we've completely stopped that altogether,
mhm.
but I would say we're doing more and more that doesn't require the use of toxic chemicals.
Okay, what if I was just to put eliminate in there for the town properties, and then this is going to go by the Board of Trustees. So I could check in with Chris too.
Yeah, because I know we've been doing a lot of things like weed pulls and whatnot. We've been
Okay.
really trying to engage the community to be involved as well.
Okay.
To do things like just pulling up the weeds, you know, and then of course steaming them, which the town has taken on in partnership with the DDA. I think we were even looking at purchasing a steamer, our own vehicle to be able to steam the weeds.
Mm.
So I know it's something we're all working towards.
Mhm.
And we do rely heavily on some experts, local experts, who help us kind of understand what our options are.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Rhea Warbler, or I always mispronounce her last name. Roble.
Okay. Yeah, the idea if the town did eliminate using toxic synthetic herbicides and pesticides, it could be a model for the rest of the community. And for a lot of these goals, I think that's the case. Okay, I'll just move on to the next one.
I just want to say I totally support that idea of eliminating entirely.
Is that
Because-
Bonnie?
Yes, this is Bonnie.
Hi, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do too. I do too. If we're still on the toxic herbicides, yeah, I mean, like reduce, I think we talked about this with Kevin, I can't remember, but setting, I know, I know, you know, the smart thing, we're supposed to be attainable, but I also feel like, just something a little more strong than reduce. Eliminate obviously being the ultimate goal, but
Mhm.
What if you guys said support the elimination of toxic
love,
herbicides?
love it,
Oh, support the elimination.
love it
Okay.
personally.
I'm just going to put that right in here. That support. Okay. Thanks, Erica. And I will update this document with the comments and have it, you know, with our decisions, and then run that by everyone again. Okay, the next one is reduce light pollution, and this is from the public charrette that we had last week, and it's from Annette, who brought up the idea that dark skies, there's an ecological health benefit to dark skies for wildlife and vegetation. So we do have dark skies in the as a culture goal, but I thought it would be worthwhile to put it here too, because just to be complete on all the different environmental sustainability goals and objectives, and also just to highlight that there's a benefit to the ecology by reducing light pollution. So I guess I'm looking for feedback on that idea.
This is Bonnie. I think that adding a sentence to adding some phrases to that reduce light pollution and embrace the benefits of dark skies for, and then, you know, list what those are.
Oh, okay.
So it becomes an educational phrase, reduce light pollution and embrace benefits of dark skies.
Okay.
I know it looks strange to me. I know it's real clear to me. When I lived on Ridge Road, I could see stars, you know, the whole sky full of stars. And you cannot see even 1/3 here in Netherlands by comparison because of the amount of light pollution.
Yeah, I agree. I know a few years ago, I live in Old Town, and when we had a light go out back when they were still incandescent, and for a year, and no one complained about it, and then all of a sudden Excel came in and replaced it with a shiny new LED, and I circulated a petition in the neighborhood and worked through it with Chris, and it was nice to support us to get that thing removed, have Excel take it. But I had done some research and sent it to him. But yeah, I mean, ironically, LED lighting, which is so much better than other kinds of lighting, but LED lighting, like in cities, is being tied to everything from, you know, lack of sleep to messing with certain types of cancer, you know, because a lot of people have to do the, you know, without getting too crazy, you know, a good night's sleep in the dark does a lot to help with melatonin. I always forget which one it is, but which does help to combat cancer or help you, you know, reduce your chances of certain types of cancer. So they've even done studies to show that city lighting is actually messing directly with people and definitely animal wildlife. So yeah, I like some stronger language here.
Okay, are there any objections to that objective, reduce light pollution and embrace benefits of dark skies? Okay.
Karen, one thing I would love to see is supporting dark skies in nearby communities. A lot of it is Denver's light pollution that affects us in Netherlands.
That's really true. I used to live in Winter Park, and always when you looked east, you could just see the glow, and we're just that much closer here.
Okay. All right, the next objective, we had encourage the protection of environmentally sensitive areas. And we had a request from Susan Wagner to make that a little stronger and say protect environmentally sensitive areas.
Like it.
Okay, and then from Kevin Mueller suggested that we combine two objectives. So instead of having expand use of community forestry sort yards and promote wildfire mitigation on private property with support from wildfire partners, we say promote wildfire mitigation on private properties and expand use of forestry sort yards with support from wildfire partners.
I think that looks good.
Okay. Whoops. What happened there? Okay, that. All right.
Can I ask,
mhm.
Karen, can I ask to go back to climate for a moment?
Sure.
Because I wasn't, anyway, I had encouraged in my feedback to actually declare a climate emergency. 10% of the world's population is represented by jurisdictions now that have declared a climate emergency.
I did read that. I think that's a great idea. We're going to go over those comments separate. Right now, we're
Oh.
just getting a baseline to add
Okay.
in the.
I thought, okay, thank you.
I think the
Uh-huh.
town has declared a climate emergency. Karen or Miranda, you might know better. But didn't Alan push that and Chris?
I know that that might have been called out in our 100% renewable goal. And also when we signed a resolution to be in alignment with the Paris Agreement. I'd have to go back and look at those resolutions though to tell you definitively, but I do believe it's been called out. I don't know if it's word for word exactly what Bonnie is saying, but it's that sentiment, that we're already there. We're in crisis. We need to deal with it.
Gotcha, thanks.
Okay. Moving on to the economy goal. This was a discussion with the group and Kevin Mueller on changing the term green to sustainable.
I like it.
And I think we intended to do it right here as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
You know what his motivation is with sustainable? Because sustainable is
Well,
also controversial.
yeah, but green. Yeah, green is a color. I mean, it's part of it. It doesn't really say anything. Sustainable, I would agree, is maybe needs to be more clearly defined, but green is color. And I work in the energy efficiency industry. And it's just abused.
But we could do regenerative.
I think regenerative.
Regenerative industry.
I'm familiar with regenerative as far as agriculture is concerned. I've not heard that term used with businesses. I picked up that green adjective from another environmental sustainability plan. And it was in reference to businesses and jobs. Erica, do you think green is better than sustainable?
I don't, but sustainable also is it's controversial on its own, right? Because it's a continuum. And so in my world, people have been really pushing instead of sustainable to put in regenerative because it actually means that there's like a full circular process. There's not really degradation in the system. And so I just looked at regenerative. It's tending to or characterized by regeneration, natural regeneration processes. It might just be something to look at because it just doesn't mean that it doesn't mean something breaks down. Or sustainable could also mean there's still a breakdown in the process. There's still some kind of waste.
Maybe we can get together and talk about a word to use.
Yeah, I love the concept. I agree with you, actually. Something about that word, though, I just think will be kind of lost on so many that maybe there's some kind of synonym or some kind of other word or phrase that would better, more clearly say what you're after. Because yeah, you're right. I mean, the fossil fuel industry has been remarkable. It's sustaining itself through lobbying and bribery and all kinds of things. So yeah, that word is.
Okay, moving on to energy and buildings goal. This is a suggestion from Billy to say that we want to move away from fossil fuels as opposed to moving away from natural gas. Also from Billy, spelling out what EV stands for. Composting toilets is from Kevin Mueller.
Mhm.
Love that idea.
You love, okay, let's leave it in there. And move towards zero waste. Boulder County's goal
Sharon.
is, yeah.
Great. Composting toilets are illegal, aren't they?
No, I believe I did look this up and I believe they are legal. It's just a matter of where they are. So like I can clarify, I can do some more research on that.
Does our Boulder County person know? Is it Zach?
Maybe Zach knows.
Hey there. I should know. I've forgotten. I used to work in environmental health, so I should know, but I do not know. Sorry. I could find out for you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
That would be great.
That'd be great. We want to put one in our house.
Yeah, I think I did check on that.
Excuse me. This is Bonnie, and I'm saying that I know Boulder County land use was supposed to be getting around to dealing with that issue of composting toilets.
Okay.
Be interesting to see it researched because I know I used to live in Fraser for about 20 some years, and they tried different types of Clevis toilets up there, and it just didn't seem to function. These were outdoors between temperature, well, primarily because of temperature. So I guess it'd be good to obviously use ones that work at this elevation and this weather. Even it's not as cold here anyways. But
Okay, the zero waste goal. I changed that to align with Boulder County's goal. And because it was more aggressive than City of Boulder's goal.
like it.
And then that's it for the vision goals and objectives. But what we've done is whenever we get into like really specifics and more implementation, we put those down in initiatives and projects. Not that we're going to do all of these items, but it's sort of a list of possibilities that would have to be vetted. So I added Colorado Communities for Climate Change, and this is from requested by the Sustainability Advisory Board. Okay, curbside wildfire assessment modeled after boulders, which with a link. That's from Susan Wagner. Oh, that last one. This was a discussion that we had at the SAB meeting, and we were talking about the updating to the International Building Code 2018, but we were discussing how there are possibly amendments from 2021 that we'd want to add. And so instead of calling out 2018, I just said International Building Code.
That's a good idea because they do come out every 3 years. So that this is a 2030 projection.
2030
Smart
plan,
not to
yeah.
tie it to a year.
Yeah. Okay. And then we had this environmental resource map development in Parks, Rec, and Open Space, and our discussions with Kevin Mueller. He brought this up for environmental sustainability, and I think it actually fits better in this section than in Parks, Recreation, and Open Space.
What section is that? I'm sorry, is that the climate? Or...
Ecological health.
No, okay, thank you very much. Yep,
It was in Parks, Rec, and Open Space.
I agree with you.
It's something that May Gerald brought up. There is one for Boulder County, but what we're looking for is one for Netherland, along with the areas around Netherland. So we would leverage off of the Boulder County resource map. Okay. Project that we added in energy and buildings is Solarized NED. Oops.
Hmm.
Not sure what. Oh. Oh, I see. Okay. Also in energy and buildings, we have update the building design standards to improve sustainability, just like we had with updating the standards for resiliency to wildfires. This one is sustainability. Okay. The community center has a project that has been approved, and it's to provide battery storage for solar. It's an Excel funded project. So just check it out.
Excel is spelled without an E.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
X, big X.
This is something that Annette brought up. She's in charge of the clothing closet at the community center. And she brought up how the community center's kitchen is a shared resource for local businesses. So it supports our local food and agriculture. Okay. I just removed this. SAP has established a baseline diversion rate and is planning next steps, because I think what's actually going on is we're going to use the results from the zero waste survey to come up with a plan. So it's just kind of And then there's some references that have changed. Okay.
Karen, quick plug. If people have not done the Dream Team survey for zero waste, they totally should. And I think it's linked on the town website. And if you have groups to share it with, please do.
Okay. I think what I'd like to do next is go over the email that Miranda sent. Okay, it has a few different bullets. Let me bring that up. Go to my email. Let's see here. This one. Okay. Oh, oops. Okay. Here. All right. So I'd like to go over these bullets first and then go into the longer documents with comments. So the first one is energy swing, and this is from Dawn Baumhofer from our charrette that we had last week. And we're not exactly sure what she means, but I think she is referring to battery storage for solar. And we do have that project listed in for the community center. And so I'm wondering if that would be sufficient for solar battery storage, or if we want to add a goal or an objective for that.
I guess, first of all, are we sure that that's what she means by that?
No, I will send her email.
That'd be good just
But
to make
yeah, Dawn's unfortunately on PTO this whole week, and I didn't get a chance to connect with her before adding all this in. She left last week. So, and I don't know if it necessarily came from Dawn. It may have come from a conversation she had with someone. But so I can't guarantee if you send her an email, she'll get to you, I guess is my point.
No, I'm Googling it. All I'm finding is like it's a brand of window and door.
Yeah, I think
I've never heard of it.
I think it's probably the battery storage for solar. You know, energy swing being you use a lot of energy is used during this time period, but not this time period during the day. And so you want to store the energy to be used during a time when there's a really high demand, something to that effect.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but that makes sense. Definitely, because that's the problem with bringing all this distributed solar online is the I can't remember the word the utilities, but just the equalization. You know, that can kind of like leveling things off so that there's a steady stream of energy. But maybe energy swing is it.
Yeah, I have never heard of that. And we do have the project listed, the community center project listed. And I know that Reed Barkas is very interested in storage for solar. I just can't, I don't understand actually how we would make that happen. And I could see how we could make it happen with municipal property, with town properties, but not with private properties. So, I mean, we could support it somehow. But I guess, Erica, I'm wondering if you think we should have an objective for solar storage?
I think that would be awesome. So solar and battery storage have gone down exponentially in price in the last decade. There might be others that can speak to this better on the call. But the last that I saw from Excel, pairing solar with battery storage was like 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm gonna say it's been a while since I've seen that graph. Wind was the cheapest at like 1.4, but it's just getting cheaper and cheaper, and that's really a solution for a smart grid. So it gets into actual like transport of electricity and with electrons through the grid. And so the more dispersed our energy as at a creation site, but also a storage site for when there are gaps, like the evening times when there's no sun, or other spots where there's no wind and they need to carry through. That's really going to be the future. That's the way that we're going, and we have to go. And there's lots of cool, different, more ecologically friendly batteries coming down the line as well, because I know some people are concerned about that. I've definitely heard that in Netherlands at different meetings from folks. But yeah, I would love to see some support of, more of a smart grid with battery storage focus. Anybody else have thoughts about that?
Totally agree. I mean, I think the better storage gets, the more it'll change everything.
Okay, Erica, maybe I'll work with you on getting that wording for the objective. Unless you think support of smart grid with battery storage is what we want to use.
Probably not there yet, Karen, because the smart grid is like, it's kind of further down the line. What we need is battery storage first. Yeah, we should come up with something, Karen, and then put it to staff, because Reed is much more focused on batteries at this point. But there's very accessible batteries for individual homes now with like the Tesla Powerwall, and you can actually wrap those into solar installations and your kind of lease to own contracts.
Okay.
So,
Okay, maybe support solar storage.
energy storage,
Pardon me?
or just support
Energy storage is the way to say that, because it'll be
Support energy. Energy storage.
That's the generation too.
Okay, and this would be for resiliency to power outages, right?
Yeah, at the local level and the immediate, it's for power outages and to increase our resiliency, which is very important for us, right? And that, but in the longer term, it's going to be to reduce the impacts of climate change, right? To be able to shut down coal-powered plants and natural gas plants that have more of a dispersed grid is really kind of the long, bigger picture.
Yeah, it's really definitely, storage is still kind of like the weaker link to get to the point of renewables just taking over, because you can always burn coal and natural gas any time of day, wind or no wind, sun or no sun. But storage will allow that not to be the case.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll work with you on that, Erica.
There's also a challenge with just national infrastructure for transmission and getting electricity around, and then eventually costs are going to be another thing that'll drive it. Cost of industry.
Karen, we could put in like, we support opening the can of worms that is battery storage.
Yes.
I think we should make it sort of fun. Yeah, that would be good. Okay. Okay, the next one, the town will cooperate. Okay, so I'd like to make this a little bit more generic. And so my proposal to add for the ecological health objective is work cooperatively with other municipalities and organizations to preserve the ecological integrity of public lands.
I like it.
I like it too, Karen.
Okay. The next bullet is making sure climate goals are considered during BOT budget process and resources are allocated. So we've moved this over to government because we should be considering prioritizing, budgeting, and allocating resources for all of the goals, not just climate.
So did you move, I mean, I like this a lot, and you moved it, I mean, I agree with what you said, but did you just change the wording or did you move it to a different thing? And I guess I didn't understand what you just
I asked Miranda if she could move it to government. This came up
Okay.
by, it came up last week at the in-person charrette. And it came to me for the environmental sustainability, and I gave it to Tom for government, and then it came back to me for environmental sustain. So I asked Miranda if we could move that back to government, and I think she did.
No, I like it. I think the sentence needs to be a little clearer. The second part of the sentence, after and that that specific resources are allocated to meet these goals or something like that. Just make it a little more, make the second part of the sentence more specific.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Billy. I've heard that when Kevin was on the SAG board, he would talk about how sustainability and climate were an afterthought. And that wasn't just with the BOT, that was like the DDA and other organizations. And
Mhm.
so the way that we can be very like direct in like making climate an integral part of decision making and budget allocation, I would be excited to see that.
Yeah, me too. Kind of hopefully,
But
guide the BOT over the years, no matter who's in it.
Miranda, can you get that back to the government group?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what the suggestion from Erica was is that climate be an integral part of decision making. I think that's what you said, Erica, wasn't it?
And allocating
And
budget,
spending. Yeah.
yeah, budget resources and spending.
I love that idea of climate being integral to every aspect. So thank you.
And we did talk about every subcommittee, including an environmental sustainability. So it seems appropriate to do that. Okay. Ecological health. So my suggestion is to create a project. To add first under ecological health, to add an objective to reduce litter in town. And then add projects for different ideas for projects, a trash pickup day, adopt a trail, adopt parts of town, have a pitching campaign. So this came up at the planning commission meeting. So Billy was there.
Yeah, I was trying to think, what were they saying? What was the business in town that like is really, you were saying it, I think it's hardly, like they're pretty contained already with any trash that they generate.
The Caribou Room.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, what we're looking at here for this particular bullet is not so much recycling and composting as keeping the town clean of trash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all the that's plastic bags and all sorts of trash that people find when they're walking around town. So it's
That's right.
it's an objective to reduce litter. All right, so the next one, encourage the protection of environmentally sensitive areas. I think we have that covered. We already have that.
Agree.
Transportation goal. We have caravan pooling and shuttles in the plan already.
I like the shuttle from Magnolia. Do we have that in the plan to Ridge? And that's kind of,
No, I
Thank you.
could add that down in the project area.
yeah, I mean, it seems like a good specific, idea, to,
Okay.
kind of a guideline or whatever, like a plan, something to plan.
Yeah. Yep. What we do have is we have a project / initiative for an electric town shuttle. And the electric part was suggested by SAB.
Okay.
Karen, I'm wondering if we could combine resources with Eldora. Because Hunter's on the Sustainability Advisory Board, and they just bought this electric shuttle. They didn't use it this year, and they probably don't use it in the summer. And I wonder
That thing is awesome. I love that little rig.
and I wonder if we could pay for it and do some kind of pilot program and try to build support for getting an expensive electric shuttle.
It's smart. That thing I saw it sitting there almost all winter.
Yeah, it cost them a lot of money too, so they might be excited to get some money back.
Okay, I'll add
Great
that to
idea.
the project area. All right, zero waste. We have town cleanup already listed in the plan. Okay, now I'd like to go to, I think where I want to go next is to Bonnie's comments. I think we're ready for that. So, Bonnie's.
I lost audio. Or are we just quiet right now?
Oh, yeah. So we think that maybe the town has already declared a climate emergency. So we'll check into that. Next one. Okay. We need to know how Netherland residents and outlying residents can make changes in how our society operates and ways individuals are living their own lives to either contribute to future disaster or contribute to solutions. We do have an education statement in the vision and also an education objective for each goal. And that's thanks to Jill Dreves that we have that from Wild Bear.
Yeah, and for each of those, I think eight goals are, areas that we made goals for. Yeah, we have either a specific or a general goal to educate people about it. So I think that would help address this, Bonnie, if you agree. Look at those, but I agree with your statement, but I think that's how we plan to do it.
So are you saying you already have a stated goal to that effect?
Yeah, for each of the 8 areas, as well as in the vision, that there's educating the community or something specific, usually the last bullet. So yes, I think we do.
So how much space is there for getting specific, like things like meat, for example?
Meat. So meat would be a project instead
Right.
of an objective, just because it's it's more specific and it's more implementation. Now, I happen to have a vegan diet, so I wouldn't mind having a project about educating people about the effects of meat, but I'm not sure that would be acceptable by everyone.
Yeah, I see it as more of a project, and obviously it'll for better or for worse be controversial. But I mean, I think you're spot on wanting to
Okay.
educate people about it specifically, but it wouldn't necessarily, I think, be a goal. It'd be more of an action item.
Karen, do you know Lester Karplus?
Left a carpa?
Do you know
What?
Lester Karplus?
I'm still not getting it.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Does it have to do with the impact of meat on our environment? Okay, I'll check.
He's a good resource if you want to do more education around food. He's been doing it for 40 years. He's on Ridge Road. He's got a website called Delectable Planet. And
Right, yeah. Lester Karplus.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Lester.
Yeah, he'd be an amazing resource, and that's
okay.
his jam.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, under fossil fuels usage, create a local travel assistance service or a cooperative of travel guides transport from DIA to Netherlands and insist their enjoyment of NED. So I thought that could be a project. The next one has to do with air monitoring equipment. Boulder County does monitor emissions and it de-aggregates those into municipality and the sector, like transportation, waste, residential. But I don't know that we can't get down to the citizen level.
So air monitoring, I guess I don't understand what kind of equipment you mean. To be honest.
I just know that there is such, but I don't know anything about it.
Is it for indoor air
Outdoor.
monitoring?
No, outdoor.
Oh, okay.
Outdoor.
So
Which actually reminds me, we should have some kind of goal. We have nothing on idling, like an idle free, which I think should be a freaking law. But like,
absolutely, I totally agree. It's just a terrible habit that people have.
And Salt Lake now people get fined for it, so it's kind of a big deal.
Great.
Finally,
I think that there is a sign at the park and ride that says something to the effect you can idle your car for 3 minutes max. But I wouldn't mind putting in an idle free project under transportation.
Probably be more education. I mean, even Click and Clack, the guys there with Car Talk, they preached it. Yeah.
Karen, we've had people bring the idling issue to the staff board as a concern and wanting to do something about it, but you know, we kind of offered like, that sounds great, we support you. Can you take control of this project and we'll help you with what you need? And they didn't have the bandwidth for that. So I know that there's interest in that at a local level. So it does make sense from just the staff perspective of having that as an action item or project.
Mhm.
And then I have worked on air quality projects around the Denver-Julesburg Basin around fugitive methane emissions from oil and gas. And the instruments I used were really expensive, but I do wonder if there's a citizen science group that we could target and we could try to see if they have instruments that we could borrow for short-term monitoring to get a baseline. I think that would be really cool. And it's also a great way to connect kids with climate, because air pollution at a local level affects health and at a global level affects climate, right? So it's a very tangible thing to share with your community.
Okay. No, so that would be something, a small scale, I'm not thinking of the words right now, but I will later. Okay. Thank Bonnie, these are such great suggestions. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
thanks, Bonnie. They are great.
Thank you, Bonnie.
How can we modify current delivery service to reasonable delivery service and not overlap miles covered by so many services? So I thought that could be an action item. So are you thinking of particular services?
Well, I actually shared with May that I had spoken with either a FedEx or a UPS driver when I lived on Ridge Road about how, you know, all the services drive the same miles every day. And it just seemed to me that that was not reasonable for the mountains given climate change. And so it's just saying, how can we modify the way things are delivered to people to something that's reasonable in terms of climate change and not have that overlap? I don't know what that would look like, but just, you know, it just seems to me it's a waste of fuel and it pollutes more.
So would this be like FedEx and UPS?
Yeah. And Amazon now that's gotten added.
So I wonder if it is, if it's actually feasible to combine those services. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd have to get buy-in by those major
That'd be a
corporations.
massive, great effort. Yeah, I wonder.
Well,
You can
another
think about
idea,
food delivery trucks, you know, delivering all the restaurants and the stores. Again, they're all separate companies. So,
more like the food delivery.
well, I mean, I'm just thinking of that. It's making me think of another service where there's probably, you know, more than one food delivery service coming up here to service. Or there definitely is, you know, you see specific ones, or out, you know, beer and beverages, whatever. And I don't know how well those corporations would play with each other on this. It seems like in the long run this could be cost effective, but I don't know. Maybe they would argue the opposite. It's a good idea.
Okay. So, okay, so the RTD bus, the big buses coming up the canyon with 10 or less people seems a waste when they could be smaller buses like the Climb and those which VIA uses, which accommodate 10 to 12 people easily and could provide service during non-ski season, April through October. So that reduced capacity is due to COVID regulations.
Yeah.
So those would apply to smaller vehicles too. You'd still have to have that social distance. We do have a transportation objective to support caravan pooling and shuttles.
And we've got
I
to
thought
keep
it, I thought it was,
RTD to make sure they serve us over upcoming years. I think we're pretty solid with them now, but they've done a lot of budget cutting and you know, whatever route cuttings through the COVID.
it just seemed to me that it was important to have Netherland as a town, you know, doing some sort of negotiating with RTD. And, you know, to me, those big, it's those big buses, I'm sure, cost a huge fortune to create, and to run them up and down the canyon, I just think it's not good when there's hardly anybody on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm on the Netherland EcoPass Advisory Board. So it's something I could talk to them about. I don't know that RTD has small buses.
But they could rent them from Via, for example. They could buy them. They could buy one small bus
Right,
to service Netherland.
right.
I mean, I see them eventually going. I mean, these electric buses are coming online. You know, they aren't prevalent yet, but it's coming. Electric transportation is coming. So, I mean, RTD will transition with that, but it's, you know, not in the immediate. But yeah, I mean, smaller vehicles, it does, especially with COVID. If COVID things loosen, RTD must be trying to figure out ways to stay in business.
Well,
Yeah.
I've sent them, you know, emails about this very subject, but I'm one person.
Do they respond?
You know, their RTD is such a rigid, you know, repetitive, keep doing the same thing they always have organization. What can I say? And I think that with more pressure, they might, you know, getting them to think about it. There's, you know, there are people, there's a woman who represents Netherland in the mountains, but I think that the whole board needs to be pressured about it. The RTD
Mhm.
board.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe this is a good time, and because COVID has really kind of rocked that organization pretty, you know, financially in a major way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
So this next,
This is Karen, Town
Uh-huh.
Administrator. I just wanted you guys to know that RTD is holding quarterly meetings with municipalities in every county, and I just was on one with them a couple weeks ago. So I just wanted you to know that the town is in conversations with them, and so far our route is protected. It's not on the chopping block. And there are people advocating on the town's behalf. But if there are specific things that you would like to make sure that we share with them, you know, you're welcome to send me an email and I will be happy to pass that on. And
So
it's
who do I send the
Karen,
email to?
it's Karen G at netherlandco.org, and I'll put it in the chat too. I'm the town administrator.
Okay, great. Then I'll copy it and
What's the next touch point? Are we gonna midsummer?
I believe so.
Okay.
Alrighty, moving on to the next item. How can the town encourage residents to step into the requested 50% cutback from fossil fuels by 2025? The revised date for the Intergovernmental Climate Change Report request to keep global average temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. So our goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 52% below 2005 levels. And that's the national goal. And I tried to find this particular goal, but I could not find it.
I couldn't either when I looked.
Okay, alrighty.
But I do remember that when I read the report in 2018, that it was it's a commonly known goal, meaning it's not just, there are a lot of people in my life who know about that goal. And my concern is that it's not just cutting back, it's all fossil fuel use.
It's all carbon emissions, reducing carbon emissions. Is that 50% relative to 2005?
It's yeah, either 2005 or 2008.
Okay,
I heard 2008, but you know, that's 3 years difference, no biggie.
It's a lot more aggressive than 52% between 2005 and 2030. So I just, if you find, I couldn't find that.
Yeah, you won't find the year, but what's happened is that in 2018, they made the goal of 2030. And then as, you know, as our overuse has continued, people like Greta Thunberg has quoted other, you know, the less and less time. And I'm basically guessing that the truth is we need to really cut back heavily by 2025. And I think that part of what happens from my viewpoint is that when you put it off to 2030, people don't do anything. It's not real to them. You know, oh, that's 10 years down the road. I don't have to worry about it.
Right. Okay, as far as how to achieve that, I think that's where you're going next on your comments. Okay, so the food waste, in 2016, Netherlands waste accounted for 2% of the town's greenhouse gas emissions. And we do have a goal and a project for composting.
Is that greenhouse gas emissions? Is that the methane produced by rotting food, or like how exactly did our waste account for?
That is measured by Boulder County, and there's a report that you can find in our working document.
Because I know that, or you know, I understand that wasted food that's, you know, grown and basically not eaten and wasted and then just decomposing is a pretty significant contributor of methane. So yeah, I'm just curious which of those is. Okay.
Zach, are you still on? Can you explain how that's measured?
Zach had to jump off, unfortunately.
Maybe Erica knows.
I'm pretty sure it's methane, and we're doing better at capturing that and using
good,
it for
yeah.
fuel. Yeah,
Yep,
but methane is, as you guys know, is 70 to 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide, and then breaks down to carbon dioxide. So pretty awful.
Okay, and then Bonnie is suggesting that we pressure Excel to be 85% alternative energy by 2025. And I just looked up their goals again. They have a goal to be 62% renewables by 2030 and 85% reduction in carbon emissions from 2005 levels by 2030 and carbon free by 2050. And we do have a project to lobby Excel to increase renewable goals via the Colorado Communities for Climate Action.
Great.
Okay, so
Oh, Karen, I would love to get 85% in there somewhere. So the reason why Excel is, from my perspective, is up so high with their renewable goals, it's a lot of the work that Boulder's done, trying to take over their own energy production. And
Makes sense.
my understanding is that Boulder could have gone 70% renewable in 2 years after purchasing their energy from energy creation from Excel and the transmission line. So I think the more we push, the more positive that whole percentage and quicker it gets to renewable. And there's no reason it can't be that high. It's just because Excel doesn't want to strand they don't want to leave their assets behind and lose money on things that they've invested in, like coal power plants.
mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, and then educate about project drawdown, and I thought we could add that as a reference. We do have a regenerative agriculture listed as an objective for local food and agriculture. We do have a transportation objective that incorporates your request to improve walkability and biking ease for students getting to school. As for the vertical greenhouses, I'm thinking we should add an objective to support vertical greenhouses. I don't know that we need to change building code or permitting. CU has a vertical farming system where lettuce is grown in towers. And if code and permitting changes are required, they would be part of the implementation stage, not the goals and objectives. And then I thought we could add that reference, vertical harvest.
Up to 35 feet.
Up to 35 feet, right?
Oh, I'm just, yeah,
Yeah,
So I have one question. If the town has not already voted to declare a climate emergency, would you please add that?
I will. And then I'll have folks on the team review it to approve it, but I think it's a reasonable thing to add.
Is
Did you have something else you wanted to say, Bonnie?
I guess a lot of the rest of it comes down into education, so I just realized that that's not your committee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next document, and that is from Susan Wagner. So I've been having some discussions with Susan, exchanging email about the term environmental sustainability. And I think she agrees that it's appropriate to use that phrase and not sustainability. You know, and my main argument there is that there's we're looking at sustainability through the lens of the environment, and so we're not particularly concerned with the economic development and economic growth, nor with social sustainability. those two areas are covered in other subcommittees, in economic development, in housing, arts, culture, and education, and some other ones. So although the environmental sustainability does have a positive effect on the economy and the society, we're not specifically addressing those two areas of sustainability. So I think she agrees with that now. I think her first paragraph there about a survey to determine the community's views on expanding the dense development outside the current boundaries. I think that's really a land use issue, and that would be part of the comprehensive plan. We're not really saying how land should be zoned or used, or if the town footprint should be increased. What we're looking at in environmental sustainability is protecting the environment. So I don't think that's applicable. For a second paragraph, okay, just is more comments on the first one. Okay, under 2, implement CPAW recommendations. I think we should add that as an initiative project for climate or ecological health. And it would be adding, implementing the CPAW recommendations. And then she has some background information about CPAW and links that you can go to. Okay. So I talked about sustainability versus environmental sustainability. As far as adding support for CPAW, okay, and then she gets into adding language from the comp plan, and that language, we do have language related to a well-connected and encouraging decreased auto dependence. That's in our transportation goal. But the rest of it, I think, is more land use, and it would be in the comp plan rather than environmental sustainability. Okay. So explore Netherlands resolution on the rights of nature. I think we should add that as an ecological objective. So there's two recommendations that I think we should use from Susan's document. One is to add support for CPAW recommendations as an action item. And the second one is to explore Netherlands resolution on the rights of nature as an ecological objective. Does anyone object to that?
I totally support a rights of nature resolution or law. And I actually put that under municipal subcommittee. And the other resolution that I heard recently on a webinar was a resolution banning trophy hunting. And I don't know how we could do that in our, meaning there's no hunting in Netherlands, so I don't know, how that relates, but there is a problem with trophy hunting in the state of Colorado. of
If-
mountain lions and bear.
Well, I think that would certainly be encompassed in a resolution on the rights of nature.
Hopefully.
Okay, so we have 6 minutes left, and there's one more document that we might be able to just zoom through. Oh, there's 2 more documents.
Karen, we did push health, human, and social services to 6 o'clock. So
Oh.
if you need longer, you're good to go.
Oh, perfect. We're going to get through this. Okay. The next document is this one from Anonymous. Okay. Anonymous, it's one of, oh, I think it's further down here. I did, oh, I think I have it pulled up still. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Here. All right. So, this person mentioned how materials that are fire resistant are not necessarily eco-friendly. And so I did a little research on that. And the one material that I found that is toxic when burned is composite decking. And so instead of just saying revise and update building design standards to improve resiliency to wildfires, I'm suggesting that we add the phrase while discouraging the use of toxic materials. Okay, on to the economy goal. We say we're going to expand green industry, clean tech jobs. And he said, how, what, where are we going to displace a restaurant? And my comment is, we're not saying that we would replace any business, and the how and what are part of the implementation. Okay. Attract businesses to diversify and localize the economy. And the comment was, what business do you want to attract? And we want to attract businesses that provide products and services needed by the community. The idea is to have a self-sufficient community that does not need to, for example, go down the hill to buy groceries. Okay, improve sustainability. And he asks, what's not currently sustainable examples? What about affordable for the budget? And we're thinking of all different things that the town of Netherland purchases, from supplies and food to construction materials. And affordability is a constraint for all of the goals. We have that listed in our working document. Provide support for local and green businesses owned by low-income households. How, with whose money? And the how and with whose money would be determined by the implementation. And I added a low-income objective to all the goals based on feedback from SAB. So Erica, do you think that's still a good idea?
Sorry, Karen, I was spaced out there for a second. What are we talking about?
Okay, the second last bullet, provide support for local and green businesses owned by low-income households. So I added a low-income objective to all the goals based on feedback that I got from your advisory board. And so I'm just checking in with you to make sure you still want to have that in each one of the goals.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important for our community, considering a lot of people are in that bracket. within the town limit. But I don't necessarily like those questions of how and with whose money I agree with. I'm not really sure how that would look. I do think that there are programs in place that we could amplify already with Boulder County. And we could try to help with, pace and, different energy efficiency measures and things like that. Does that help?
Yeah. Alrighty. Moving on to local food and agriculture goal. Identify barriers and opportunities for local food production. And he said location, altitude, length of growing season. Yes, those are all barriers. And as part of the implementation, we would look at ways to overcome the barriers. For example, hoop houses could be used to extend growing season. Okay, this one is about community and private food gardens. It's being done by the pantry. We know that. Okay, now here we say increase accessibility of local food for vulnerable populations. And the comment is that, again, this is being done by the pantry and being done well. The working and middle class are the ones left out. From my point of view, the working and middle class can purchase one of the garden plots in the community garden along the creek off of First Street. And they can also purchase local food from the farmer's market. But I think what this person is saying is that we are financially supporting vulnerable populations, some of which may be low income, and we're leaving out, we're not financially supporting working and middle class, but I don't know how to respond to that really. Okay.
Karen, I think anyone can go to the food pantry.
Anyone can.
Yeah, and you don't have to say you make X amount of dollars. You don't have to say you get food stamped. It's accessible to anyone. You just have to give your name so that they can get the support that they need to continue getting the money to buy the food. At least that's my understanding. So, I mean, I hear this person saying that they are feeling left out. But I don't know if I don't think that's the structure that's leaving them out.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that, Erica.
I also just wanted to add that EFA, Emergency Family Assistance, actually has an office up here in the mountains. Of course, during COVID right now, she's working remotely from her home in Netherlands, but normally has an office right in the community center. And they also help people with, household needs, whether it's by giving them financial support or whatever. And so does Canyon Cares. Not that it means we shouldn't continue to look at more ways to support the needy. I just wanted to point that out, that there are several ways that people who are having a challenge meeting their food needs, there are several different options up here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Karen. All right. Support EV adoption and charging stations for all community members. The comment is, who says all community members want an electric car? And we're not saying that. We just don't want to do things that would preclude any particular group of the community. So,
What do we have something about this in code? Seems, I think I've got to bring 220 voltage to my garage anyway. Is that? I think that's part of code now, isn't it?
I'd have to look at that, Tom. But I did want to say that the town is actually expanding the number of EV charging stations that the town is supplying with the project, the TIP project, the Transportation Improvement Project. We're adding, I think it's 4 more stations. So we're going from 2 to 6 over by the visitor center.
Yeah.
And we do track the usage, and it's actually pretty surprising how many people do use it. But
That's
anyways,
great.
I wanted to point that out. I'll do a quick scan of our municipal code, Tom, and see if that's
Great.
called out.
And then what is TIP? Is that federal money?
That
Who's
is a
paying for it?
mix of state and federal money, so it comes from the Department of Transportation. And then some of the funding is directly from CDOT, I believe, so it's a mix of
Oh.
federal and state. And it's $1.5 million that we were awarded.
And so we're tripling our capacity.
Yeah. And that's
That's
just one
great.
of the little pieces of the project. That's really cool.
Excellent.
Okay, support car, van pooling, and shuttles. COVID changed this option. That's true. Hopefully COVID will become less of a threat over time, and then car, van pools, and shuttles will be a more realistic objective. Okay, the next one is increase the level of walking and bicycling by providing infrastructure that is accessible and connects neighborhood schools, shopping, places of employment, transit, and public spaces. And the comment is, great goal. How does one transport groceries if we shop local and support local? So I'm not saying that we eliminate cars, just that we add support for alternative modes of transportation. Okay, the next one is offer education and outreach on alternative transportation and fuel efficient vehicles. The comment is we focus is always on carbon emissions. Where do the rare earth minerals come from for the batteries? Who mines them? Are those people protected from exposure, danger? Where are those batteries discarded? What is the half-life of the toxic elements and how is the environment protected from them? Fuel efficiency is very ethnocentric and limited perspective. So I started doing some research on this, and it is a good point. The minerals used in electric vehicle batteries are recyclable, but they're not very accessible as far as mining is concerned. And there are some environmental impacts and some social impacts for the people who are doing the mining. Erica, do you know much about this?
You know, Karen, I've been fielding comments like this for a while, and they are valid and they have a great point. But I always kind of go back to carbon in the air is changing everything. And the more that we do have electric vehicles, the better and better they're going to get, and the more we're going to kind of hopefully solve this problem. I don't know if anyone else has a more eloquent way of responding to this.
From my perspective, I'm seeing a business pop up very quickly for second life batteries. End of use car stuff is going into grid storage. So I think, yeah, there is a huge impact with mining the raw materials, but some of the impact is being mitigated the longer you can use these things, and then the easier they are to deconstruct at the end.
So,
Karen, and
But
one thing to add to that too would be that one of the biggest carbon emissions as far as our society is transportation. So, you know, we've really got to tackle it, and we don't have a perfect solution, but it's definitely better than you know, diesel, gas car that has really low miles per gallon. And it's also tough when you talk about where you plug in your electric vehicles too. You know, if you're plugging into a coal-powered plan,
Hmm.
then is that really a solution? You know, if you're plugging into a grid that's 50% renewable, that's different, or 100% renewable, or you charge it off your own batteries and solar system. So there's a lot of layers to the conversation, but carbon emissions are all encompassing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you got companies, some couple of you at least have heard me say this before, but like GM is saying they're going to work to stop making internal combustion vehicles by 2035, and I think Volvo may have followed suit, and others will. I mean, so EVs are coming. It's not doesn't mean that gas cars will be taken off the road, but you're right. Transportation is one of the biggest in our country polluters, and ultimately it's just going to be about probably more research into the I think ultimately switching to electric will outweigh these risks. It's going to happen anyways.
Yeah. Well, something I'll think about some more. Maybe I'll come up with a way to, phrase this as being sensitive to the impact of using these rare minerals. So,
There
okay.
I can see from looking at the grid side batteries that there are non-toxic things on the horizon that are starting to show up. One of my clients is EOS, and they're using a zinc air mix that doesn't use any rare earth. And I think that a lot of these grid sized solutions are going to come down to vehicles in a matter of time.
Cool. Cool. Okay,
So
so
can I add something?
yeah.
This to me, part of one of the underlying and unspoken pieces is what we've all learned as the good life and have become a car culture, for example. I have no car, and yet I live in the mountains. And I think that the part of what needs to be worked on is there's an attitude in our culture that if you can pay for it, you have a right to it. And if you have a car, you have a right to use it. And so that there are a lot of attitudes like that that need to be questioned, because as far as I'm concerned, it's future generations that are going to inherit the problems that we don't, tackle now. And part of them is our lifestyle and what we think we are entitled to. And the second point I want to make is about Excel, that they're dragging their feet on getting alternative energy going when they actually could do it. And it's, for their own profit motives. And so the more we can push them, then it makes sense if you're plugging in an electric vehicle, that if you are using alternative forms of energy, it makes a much greater sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one more document and it will be pretty quick, I think. Okay, this one is from Dennis Duckett.
Karen, it should be down at the bottom actually, because it was one of the first ones we got.
Okay.
Oh, they're not. It was on mine sorted that way, but
This one maybe. No.
it's listed as it. I would have put his name next to it. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at it and I put some comments in. There it is. Okay. This is a very good read. And I don't know if you all have gotten a chance to read it. Maybe we can read it right now and then I have some comments on the end.
Do you mind scrolling down? I'm actually reading it off of this.
Okay. Okay, so um, so I'm suggesting that we add some things to our document. This idea of a cooperative worker-owned models as a project to investigate for the economy. And encourage small cottage industries as an objective for the economy goal. So those are my two recommendations from this document.
I like it. They seem like two actionable items.
Mhm.
I mean, I think this is a strong statement, but it's you did a good job pulling something actionable out of it.
Mhm.
I also think that this is Bonnie, there's much that, it's much that Dennis said that I think really bears witnessing and listening to. I have been, because I hitchhiked on Ridge Road, I was just appalled at the amount of traffic, individual cars coming up to go skiing. That people, weren't even then before COVID using the bus. So, and I just have felt the same thing that, there hasn't been, for one thing, I heard that the ski resort was not willing to, it wasn't willing to cooperate about parking or, making it hard for people to bring up cars. So yeah, there just didn't seem to be a cooperative attitude between the town of Nederland and the ski resort, the Eldora ski resort.
Honey, can
So-
I just speak to that? This is Karen. I
Okay.
just want you to know, in case you didn't know, that Eldora actually tried something about a year and a half ago where they were going to ask, basically, it's free parking if you had, I think, 3 or more people in your car. And then
Right.
otherwise they were going to charge, I think, $20 or something along that line. Now, you know, the timing wasn't very good in their making this decision, so I will say that. But people came out so strongly against it. And people in Ned and some businesses as well came out very much against it. So I'm just letting you know they have had this conversation, and they even at one point tried to initiate a program. And again, their timing wasn't very good, but it was met with quite a negative backlash. And I will say, because I saw a lot of the comments, a lot of them were people and businesses in Netherlands. So just so you know, that did take place about a year and a half ago.
Thank you. But is there any other way to address some of the comments that Dennis made? You know, basically saying we need to look deeper at some of these things, and how do we as a town and as a community do that?
Well, we are aware of the plastic issues, and so we do have objectives and projects in there to reduce our consumption of non-recyclable plastics. And we do have, you know, transportation goals, and yeah, and the education component of it is pretty important. So I think we are addressing a lot of the things that he's mentioned there. But I thought there were some really specific things in this third last paragraph that we could add to the document. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thanks, everyone. I am going to update our working document with all of our decisions and send it out to everyone. And if we can agree over email, then we'll be done with that. Otherwise, we'll have another meeting.
Thank you so much, everyone. Another really great conversation. We sure appreciate all the input.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Karen.
On to our next one.
Yeah.
Join us if you dare.